The unexplained story that begins where all your imagination ends.
Today we're doing something a little different. We're not breaking down a study or a report, but a poem. It's called The Ballad of the Broken Bank, and it's this incredible allegory, a story that feels both ancient and brand new, about financial crisis, about mismanagement, and, maybe most importantly, about the lies that always seem to follow. So let's dive in and unpack its warning.
Now, this line is actually from the very end of the poem, but we're starting with it because, well, it just cuts right to the chase. It lays out the three big themes we're about to see play out: wasted money, truth being thrown out the window, and putting the absolute wrong people in charge of the most important things. It's basically the whole tragic story in a nutshell.
All right, so Act 1. Our story kicks off with this really powerful image: temples on borrowed sand. This is where the whole disaster begins, with a foundation that's doomed from the start.
So the ballad begins by painting this picture of the nation's banks as these huge, magnificent temples. They look solid, permanent, something you can really trust. But here's the catch. They're built on borrowed sand. Think about it. Sand can be washed away by the very next tide. It's such a perfect metaphor for a financial system that cares more about looking strong than actually being strong.
So you'd think the smart move would be to fix this sandy foundation, right? Nope. Instead, they bring in a new guy, and the poem gives him this wonderfully dismissive name, the babysitter. His job isn't to be an expert, it's not to fix the deep structural problems. His job is just to keep things quiet, to soothe everyone's nerves, and to create this illusion that everything's just fine.
And this is where things really start to pick up speed. We get to see how the babysitter's choices, and his lack of choices, start pushing this already fragile system right to the edge of the cliff. This is the rising action of our whole tragedy.
This line tells you everything you need to know about the babysitter's priorities. He's not down in the trenches trying to fix the economy. He's smoozing. He plays with princes. He's hanging out with the elite. And he soothes the debt with silver strings, meaning he's using clever financial tricks and empty promises to just paper over the cracks instead of actually fixing the massive debt problem. It is all about keeping up appearances.
And this focus on just looking good leads to some truly terrible policies. The ballad lays out 4 clear steps to disaster. First, you just print money like there's no tomorrow. Second, you pretend that inflation, the ghost that always follows, isn't real. Third, you spend a ton of money overseas, not for smart investments, but just for prestige, to look good on the world stage. And finally, you keep telling everyone the debt is fine, using comforting lies instead of facing the hard truth.
So, with a foundation of sand and a leader making one reckless decision after another, you know what's coming next. The climax is inevitable. This is the moment the temples finally crumble and, as the ballad says, the billions just dance away.
Just listen to the tone here. It's not, oh, what a tragedy. It says, oh, what delight. I mean, that's got to be the most cynical line in the entire poem. It's telling us that for a very specific group of people, this collapse isn't a disaster at all. It's an opportunity. It's a party. A chaotic, profitable dance where fortunes are made in the dark. And the guy who caused all this? The babysitter? What happens to him? Well, he gets away with it, of course. He slips away through foreign doors, totally out of reach. And his powerful buddies, the ones who got rich from the chaos, they're not worried. They're still cheering from their marble floors, completely protected from the consequences that are about to hammer everyone else. But the story doesn't stop when the banks crash. Oh no. What comes next is almost as bad: the cover-up. We're now entering what the ballad calls a kingdom of liars, where the truth is buried and justice is nowhere to be found. And here you see this incredible gap between what they're telling people and what's actually happening. The official story, plastered everywhere, is simple. No loss, no theft, don't panic, everything's fine. It's all about protecting the people responsible. But the reality? The vaults are empty, the money is gone.
A lie this big can't be pulled off by just one person. It takes a whole system. The poem shows this huge circle of complicity. You've got the media, where anchors grin and play along. You have the political opposition, who yell and scream in public, but then feast with the very people they're supposed to be holding accountable. And finally, the justice system, which is rigged from the start. The game is already over before it even begins.
And all of this leads us to the poem's final, devastating judgment. It's a warning, not just about this one crisis, but about why these things happen over and over again. And the reason is simple: the watchmen are asleep. The poem now turns its focus to the experts,
the academics, the economists, the thinkers. The very people who are supposed to understand how all this works and warn the rest of us. And it asks this brutal, simple question. What was the point of all your education, all your theories, if you didn't do anything to stop this from happening? It's a direct shot at the entire expert class. And this might be the most chilling conclusion of all. The watchmen, your regulators, your journalists, your academics, they're all asleep on the job. And in that vacuum, the system just becomes a free-for-all. The thieves aren't even hiding anymore. They're openly debating the best way to rob the place. The new rule of the game is that the person who can exploit the system with the most flair, the most style, isn't a criminal, they're a winner.
So, is there any hope? Well, the poem offers a three-step plan. First, you have to hold the guilty accountable. Catch the thief. Second, you have to write new, smarter laws to prevent it from happening again. But it's the third step that's the real warning. You have to guard those new laws, because we, the public, will eventually get tired, we will fall asleep again, and that's when the whole cycle threatens to start over. Vigilance has to be constant.
And that's where this incredible allegory leaves us. It's not just a fairy tale about a bank. It's a story about a broken system of trust and accountability. And it really forces us to look around at our own world and ask a pretty uncomfortable question. Right now, today, how awake are our watchmen?
This is just a pause, not the end.